Call to order the regular board meeting of November 20th, 2017 at 7 p.m. The Pledge of Allegiance tonight, the colors will be given by the Anchor Bay Junior Air Force ROTC.
Forward, march. Post colors. Present arms. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, arms, ready, face. Got out.
Special thanks to the Anchor Bay Junior Air Force ROTC. Item 3, Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Supervisor Echevetti.
Here.
Treasurer LaFata.
Here.
Trustee Anderson.
Here.
Trustee Joseph.
Here.
Trustee Demink.
Here.
Trustee Vosberg. Here. Clerk Berry is here.
All members are present. Item 4 is presentations. There are none at this time. Item number 5, department reports. Starting with 5A, Mr. Don Coddington. Hello, Director.
Good evening, Board. Don Coddington from our Water and Sewer Department. My report is about a pump from our biggest sewer pump station. It went down a few weeks ago and it went into a fail mode. We sent it to the company that does work with our pumps. It needed some extensive work. I will tell you that the pump is approximately 12 years old and has pumped millions of gallons. It had a seal fail, which involves a lot of rebuilding, upper bearings, lower bearings, O-rings, springs, flush valve, gasket, oil housing bottom, ring, impeller shim, ceramic coating, and polymer steel coating. So the charges to rebuild this pump were $17,980. I know it's a lot of money, but these pumps pump a lot of water, and they're our biggest pumps. To replace this pump is approximately $38,000. So in these cases, we'll always rebuild this pump one time. Next time, another 10, 12 years down the road, we'll consider what to do, whether we rebuild the pump or buy a new one. So that's where we are with the status of that pump. It's from the Cotton Road lift station, which is near Cotton Road and Jefferson. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you. Just wondering, how do you become aware that it's not working?
Through the SCADA system that you all let us update last year, it actually sends a signal to our SCADA and our on-call phone that a pump kicked out, and it will come in as a pump failure. So we go out and check it at that time, and we could not get it to come back on, so we took it offline for the night that night. Then we come back and try and back flush it and everything we can do in the field before we physically pulled the pump out, and that's what we ended up doing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Pierre, how many pumps are in that pump station?
There's 4 stations total in that. 4 pumps total in that station.
Basically it's just a wet well nowadays, more than the old style lift stations like it used to be.
That's correct. All these pumps are submersible, and nobody has to go down in these areas no more. We can pull them all mechanical out with a machine.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any further comments from the board? Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Any further department reports?
Yes, I would like to give a report on our servers. We are in desperate need to replace our servers, and I think I've given the board all a packet for our IT. And what we would like to do is upgrade our servers at the present time. We've worked closely with High Tech, kind of analyzing what we need and what is appropriate for our departments. We would like to upgrade our exchange from 2010 to 2016. That will give us more protection on malware, things like that. Our current servers are out of their life cycle, and we are currently going through some stages where we're losing a little downtime. They're rebooting themselves. So we have proposed to replace them, and it gives you a list of the servers we need to replace. We're going to replace servers both at the Township Hall and at the DPW. We have a disaster recovery backup at the DPW at the present time. And to keep us up to date, we need to then upgrade our servers. And High Tech has gone out and priced out what we need with their recommendations. They are here today if we have any questions in regards to what you need and what we need to move forward. And so they've gone out and they've done some state pricing, contract pricing, in getting deals, and we were just wondering exactly where the board would like to proceed. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you, Ellen. This has been under discussion with us for quite some time. High Tech is our current professional service
Yes.
consultant for information technologies. And when this was brought to myself, I sent an email to the other full-time elected officials, Treasurer LaFata and Clerk Barry, to ask their input on the state pricing piece of this.
Yes.
And if that would meet our requirements.
Yes, and that's what we'd like to do.
Competitive bids under this process, and that led us to this point to have this discussion. Treasurer LaFata.
I asked Ellen to present this tonight so it was transparent, and this is state minimum directly through Hewlett-Packard. It's the same as the police or the DPW buy vehicles through the state, but if the board wishes to put this out for quote, there's no problem in doing so.
Trustee Joseph.
The report that you put forward tonight, are you making a request at this point, or are you just providing this for information with a subsequent request for a specific project at a later time?
Yes, what we did was we wanted to inform the board of exactly what direction we were going and what the board's feeling is as far as doing the state bid pricing or to go out for a formal sealed bid through our individual process.
I see. Well, I'd like to, if I may, just put my 2 cents on the record. I've been fairly hard on High Tech in the past, but I do honestly have to say, when their numbers come in comparison in terms of what they do, they're very competitive, and the bulk of this purchase to me seems hardware related. It is, the money that we would be looking to save in terms of a competitive bid are really not there, because independent of who the installer is, the hardware is it's a state minimum cost. It's what it costs. It's the absolute lowest price. And I think personally, I've been down this road before with these types of purchases, and it doesn't, in my opinion, necessitate a bid. Again, the work being done is nominal in comparison to the hardware. So for me, I'd like to see the dollar amounts brought at the next meeting or whenever it is that you want to get this project going.
Yes.
And get these servers upgraded.
I know that currently it would require a budget amendment, and we would ask that at the time.
Sure. Well, we would see the numbers, and I appreciate the other thing that was done here, which is if it is the board's position to take it out for bid, it does put, High Tech at a bit of a disadvantage to do the bid, put all the numbers in, and make it part of the public hearing and send it out. So, I'm interested in the numbers, but just from past experience to me, and I've kind of dove real deep into some of these projects in the past, the installation and the work, the man hours to put the server is very small in comparison to the hardware, and it's a waste of everyone's time. We really don't save anything. We delay the project. So again, Mr. Supervisor, my 2 cents are just bring the numbers forward and let's talk about the budget amendment, budget adjustment that needs to be done to get these servers going.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph, I appreciate.
One quick follow-up, if I could, and I do believe that we have some high-tech representatives here.
Yes.
Best case scenario, if this comes first meeting in December, this is probably going to be a 2018 actual expense, is what I'm estimating. I don't know if you could get installed, complete in 15 days. So this might be a 2018 budget item, hence no amendment at this point, just a revision to next year's budget.
If they deliver it to us before the end of the year, then it would be a 2017 budget amendment. If it is after, then it would be the 2018.
Any further comments from the board? Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm glad that we're bringing this issue forward because I believe that a full assessment and evaluation of our IT infrastructure and capabilities is long overdue. I'm anxious to see it. I would simply suggest that I think it would be in our best interest and behoove us to have, because there's been so many changes, not only to the capabilities and the things that we can do, but things that we need to do. I've become very familiar with a lot of our information needs, being the information officer here, and I'd be hoping to be very involved in this as well, because I know the needs that we have now and what we're going to need in the future, moving more into a digital environment as well. And I've got some concerns that I need to make sure that we have addressed, but I think it would also make sense for us to perhaps have some additional perspective on the project itself, on our entire, having our entire infrastructure, IT infrastructure evaluated, maybe by a couple of different sources, just to get some perspective. It hasn't been looked at in at least 10 years that I know of, maybe even longer. And things change, and there's different approaches to solving these problems as well. And I think maybe having some perspective on some different approaches may help the board have a better idea of maybe what other municipalities are doing as well. And I think it would be beneficial for all of us. And I agree with Trustee Joseph in that I think in order to be fair, if we do go out for bid, and quite frankly, I hope that we do, that everyone's given the same opportunities and no one is at any disadvantage. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board?
Just one quick one, Mr. Supervisor, if I may. The High Tech is our contracted IT provider.
At the current time, yes. Their contracts should be bidded out next year.
So if we're doing it the end of 2018, correct? The contract is currently until 2018.
Yes.
We're going to do, we have system failure. This idea of looking at, like globally, we're doing it with High Tech. They're our provider, is my understanding. So just from a cost breakdown, and I don't want to put you on the spot if you don't know, don't guess. Percentage-wise of this particular project, what percentage is represented by the hardware purchase?
I would say 90% of it.
Right. So in terms of the immediacy, this is really something you need to get done. Listening to the comments I've had with Mr. LaFata, conversations we've had with Mr. LaFata, we got a real problem. These servers are long gone. They really are not able to withstand our need at this point. So I'd like to see it move as quickly as we can.
And this proposal is to address not only our current needs, but our future needs, both storage-wise, efficiency-wise. We're planning on splitting a couple of the BSA software to a server on their own, which they won't affect other software issues. These will address some of our concerns. It will address our Laserfish concerns as far as having their operating software on a separate server and their storage separate, which is recommended by Laserfish. So these are not only, these servers won't only do our immediate, it will do our future. We're planning on this, I mean, we plan on having these at least 5 years. These are, the warranty will be 5 years, so we're hoping that it will allow us to grow. It will allow us to grow. The Generation 10 will allow us to grow as quickly as we need to.
Well, I thank you for the presentation. I thank Mr. LaFata for the way that he's handled the process of bringing it forward, getting an understanding from the board in terms of how we want to go, and then having you here to present. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan, thank you for the presentation, and I look forward to seeing the item show up on a future agenda.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and I thank the board.
And this is one of those very vital consultants that we've had a long-term relationship with that is going to be looked at in the coming years.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the input from the board.
Thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There's no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any item is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. Public comments on the consent agenda are permitted. Tonight's consent agenda includes approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting of November 6th, 2017, and the special board meeting of November 1st, 2017, approval of the agenda, and approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the Finance Department.
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Clerk Barry. Support by Trustee Domingue. Discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, just one notation I'd like to make. At our last board meeting, the board postponed an item, specifically the new vehicle for the assessing department, until today's meeting. The reason why that item does not appear on your agenda is that it was withdrawn by the department.
Any further comments from the board?
Continued support.
Any comments from the public? Motion by Clerk Barry, support by Trustee Domingue to approve the consent agenda. Please call the roll.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Akivetti.
Aye.
Clerk, thank you.
Motion passes. 7A on the regular agenda, approve a request by the Human Resources Department to approve the promotion of Amanda Willard from Assistant Parks and Recreation Director to the Director of Parks and Recreation.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Trustee Domingue, support by Trustee Vosberg. Discussion. I would just like to state that I am very excited and happy for Amanda, and I have big plans, and I think you're going to just be an amazing member in that position for our community. Amanda's been with the township since 1999. She became the assistant director in 2015, and she has been and will continue to be a tremendous asset to our community, and she is here. Any further comments, discussion from the board? All those in favor of the promotion?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Welcome, Amanda.
I
I just wanted to take a real quick minute to say thank you very much for your vote of confidence, the confidence that you've given me and the opportunity to lead a department that I've dedicated myself to for 18 of my 21 years in Parks and Recreation. I'm excited to guide our department into a new era, one of quality programming and top-notch parks, both of which the residents of Chesterfield deserve. So I'm proud to pursue these goals with the support of this visionary board, and by working together, I think the best is yet to come for all of us. And I just want to say again, thank you for your support over the years, and thank you for backing me in this new endeavor.
Very nice.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. 7B, approve a request from the Public Safety Department to adopt Resolution 2017-28, which would allow the police department's participation in the countywide law enforcement mutual aid agreement and authorize the appropriate county or township officials to sign the required documents. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion by trustee Anderson, support by trustee Vosberg. Director Kirsten.
Pretty straightforward. This is simply an agreement between the multiple law enforcement agencies throughout Macomb County to share resources in the time of an emergency and to offer jurisdiction of other responding officers within the county. This is pretty much boilerplate language to steal a term from our counselor, our legal counselor. He's reviewed it. It's the same document that's spread throughout the municipalities in Macomb County, so it's really specific or non-specific and generalized in law enforcement area.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I noticed on the cover sheet there, it asks the cost, and it says not any.
There's no cost to this.
And, well, I think there is, because whenever you go and help someone else, our people are getting overtime, things like that. But we're also receiving the same thing back should we need the service of someone else. That's why we're saying it's no additional cost.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any further board comments? Comments from the public? Motion by trustee Anderson, support by trustee Vosberg to approve the request as stated. Clerk Bailey, please call the roll.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Domingue.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Echevetti.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. 7D, actually 7C, approve a request by the Human Resources Department to approve a retirement and transition agreement for Fire Chief Doug Charbonneau. Do I have a motion to approve as stated?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Berry, support by trustee Domingue. Hi, Chief.
Good evening. Anybody has any questions, obviously I'm here to answer them.
Chief, what an honor the last year's been. Chief Kirsten's been serving our community since 2003.
Yep.
Before that, 26 years with our neighboring community in Mount Clemens. It's just been an honor for the last year.
I appreciate that.
Nothing but respect, nothing but great things to say from me to you for what you've done for our community. Chief's been the chief since 2007, and I think this is going to be a good. I'm not sure what you're going to be when you grow up, or when you move on. But I'm appreciative throughout the next year. We're going to still be able to have you as a resource, and I thank you for your service.
I will make myself available far beyond that. I have a close association with Director Kirsten. We've basically had lunch together every day for 14 years, and he's in the middle of a large transition with the public safety move, and I believe in support of him, the best move moving forward would be a new set of players. I'm a 40-year plus veteran of the fire service, and it's been an honor to serve both of these communities, Mount Clemens and Chesterfield. And I do want to thank, going back to Jim Ellis, giving me the opportunity to serve here. I came in as a deputy chief when called upon in 2007 when the former chief had some issues and had to retire. At that time, with the downturn in the economy, the first thing Jim Ellis said to me was, you're you're $750,000 over budget this year and $750 next year, and you only got $230 left in the reserve fund. So make it work. And I have a couple of my guys here. I turn to them. I turn to the members of the Chesterfield Township Fire Department to help me and support me in making a lot of tough decisions. And we faced some layoffs. We lost some people to other departments, but through it all, these guys have stuck behind me, and they're really the ones that made this work. And it's been my honor and privilege to serve with all of them. I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
Chief, I'd like to say thanks for your service. I've worked with you much over my tenure on the board. We've had a lot of conversations regarding everything on fire. Helped me understand fire more than from my law enforcement career. I wish you the best in retirement. Enjoy the good years.
Yeah, thank you.
Like somebody else should probably do, I know. But good luck.
You're not far behind me, are you?
Probably not. Not right about now.
Motion by Clerk Barry, support by Trustee Demink, to approve the request by the Human Resources Department to approve the retirement and transition agreement for Chief Douglas Charbonneau. Please call the roll.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Akavetti.
Aye.
And if I may, I would like to say I'd be remiss if I did not thank this board and the previous board for the support they've shown for the Chesterfield Township Fire Department. You've always been there on our side, and moving forward, we will always be there to support this township and all of its endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
That was for Joe Miller.
7D, approve a request by the Department of Public Works for the purchase of meters and meter components from Ferguson Waterworks for a cost of $11,488.75. I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Support.
Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Barry. Director Coddington.
Good evening again, Board. This should be enough meters and hardware to get us through to the end of the year. We are still very busy installing new meters and all the hardware that goes along with it. A lot of houses got built this year, which is wonderful. We're growing, everything's working good. So this should get us through the end of the year with the meter, hardware, and meters. Any questions?
Any questions from the board? We've seen this several times, so. Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Barry to approve a request by the Department of Public Works for the purchase of meters and meter components from Ferguson Waterworks for a cost of $11,488.75. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Supervisor Akavetti.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion passes. Hang out right there for a minute. 7E, approve a request by the Department of Public Works to authorize FDM contracting to excavate and replace a portion of a sewer lead at 53673 Hubs Lane for a cost of $17,866 with a 10% contingency. I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Support.
Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Barry. Director.
Okay, these I think it's D and E, I'm sorry, are very similar. They are just on different roads. This is a sewer that is failing underneath the road, which is outside of the homeowner's responsibility. We've TV'd these leads, we've snaked these leads, we've cleaned them, we've jetted them, TV'd them. The one on Hubs Lane, we even attempted to make a repair ourselves. It helped, but it did not solve the problem. So it did take several months to be able to get 3 contractors to be able to bid on this, and I'm certainly looking for the board's support to. It's a little out of our realm, the depth and removing the road. We don't have the plates and the boxes and the equipment needed to get across the road. So that's why I'm asking to have FDM help us with this.
Questions from the board? Questions or comments from the public? Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Barry, to approve a request by the Department of Public Works to authorize FDM contracting to excavate and replace a portion of the sewer lead at 53673 Hubs Lane for a cost of $17,866 with a 10% contingency. Clerk Barry, please call the roll.
Supervisor Akavetti.
Aye.
Clerk Barry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Motion
you.
passes. One final one, I believe, for you. 7F, approve a request by the Department of Public Works to authorize FDM contracting to excavate and replace a portion of a sewer lead at 52786 Overlook Trail for a cost of $17,866 with a 10% contingency. I'll make a motion to approve as stated.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Barry. Discussion again.
Very, very similar situation, different street, but the sewer is failing underneath the road again. Exact same situation, road has to come out. Going to have a big machine, box and plates to get across there, sand backfill the road, and they're going to help us with it, and we will be back to restore it in the springtime. The green belt part, that is. The road, we're going to get replaced immediately.
Approximately the same job as the other one. We think about the same lineal feet
The
of...
footage is almost identical. The problem is absolutely identical, and they both start right about at the property line of their front yard and go into a belly underneath the right-of-way and under the road and all the way to the main before it comes back out. So it's a big old belly, and the sewer just gets in there and it plugs up after time.
In both of these, we plan on putting a clean out at the property line
Yes.
for access. for
Right where we're
safety and
starting, we'll have a clean out that'll be able to go all the way to the main. So in case anybody ever has to come back in the future, they don't have to get back in the house.
Trustee Joseph.
So I experienced this with you on a street that's close to me. And the issue was the water line itself. So the sewer comes out of the homeowner's house, gets to the street. If the sewer line is on the opposite side of the street, that typically means then the water line is on the homeowner's side of the street.
Yes.
And the pitch from the homeowner's house to the end of the property line hits that water line, which is immovable, right? So there was a slight amendment made, and then you run into situations under the road where you have a belly. Is this a similar kind of breakdown that we have going on here?
It is. I think your belly was more in your yard, though, wasn't it, if I recall?
The problem was, I became an expert on this because we were out a couple of times, going back many years. But the problem was that me, my neighbor on both sides, everybody on that side of the street ran into a problem with the water line because you had to carry the street to get to the sewer side, and it caused a sort of an adjustment in the pitch. It was very, very flat from the house because there was no way to go above the water line, and to try to cheat it to go below creates this potential dip. So are we certain, and the reason I'm asking all this is, are we certain that we fixed the problem? In this particular case, the belly is pretty pronounced under the road?
Yes.
Is that where we have the problem?
And this one, yes, and this one does not have this same scenario as far as, this one will be a couple, 2 to 3 feet underneath the water main itself, so
I see.
it's not
Okay.
that kind
Yeah.
of a conflict.
Great, okay.
Thank you.
Jared, just real quick, how old is this line on Overlook Trail?
Overlook Trail was late 90s, and very similar age on the one on Hubs.
Okay, thank you.
But this is not, I'm sorry, this isn't really a life expectancy problem. This has really got to do with the original pitch, and then the way it sort of settled. in a really non-accessible place.
That-
Anywhere else but under the road, we go in and fix that.
That's
The
correct.
road creates a new problem for us.
That's correct.
Okay.
Motion by Supervisor Akavetti, support by Clerk Berry to approve a request by the Department of Public Works to authorize FDM Contracting to excavate and replace a portion of the sewer lead at 52786 Overlook Trail for a cost of $17,866 with a 10% contingency. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Supervisor Akavetti.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll be moving forward on this right away. Thank you very much.
7G, approve a request by the Supervisors Department to reconsider the vote to postpone item 7G from the November 6th, 2017 Charter Township of Chesterfield regular board meeting to authorize Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick to prepare the engineering plans, specifications, and necessary construction administration services for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park project. MDNR number T16-0108.
Mr. Supervisor, at our last board meeting, I did second Mr. LaFata's motion to table this till our December meeting. I would ask for the motion to reconsider this vote, which was postponed tonight.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Joseph, seconded by Clerk Berry to reconsider the vote to postpone item 7G relating to authorizing Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick to prepare engineering plans, specifications, and necessary construction administration for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park project. Discussion. Discussion on the reconsideration. Treasurer LaFata.
Reason why I asked for a table and a postponement until December is I was trying to get all the information on what was done previously by AEW. I requested that information on November 7th, the day after the November 6th board meeting when I asked to table it. Lyle didn't think it was going to be on the board agenda until December, so I didn't get to meet with him until Friday around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I met with Lyle and Trustee Anderson was there with me. We kind of went through what was done and what wasn't done. It looks like most of what was done, other than the overlay or whatever we paid, $4,450, is basically non-usable at this time. Part of the other conversation was trying to institute some kind of project program management into this. I kind of made a rough overview over the weekend of what's involved. I don't know if anybody's interested, but I think it's a very good thing. It seems to be used in most engineering practices for major projects. Now, later this afternoon, Lyle sent me some information that I asked about, but when he sent that information, I, at this time, brought up some questions, which I would like to pass these down because it affects me when it comes time to pay the invoices.
If I may,
Mr. Supervisor, can I just ask for a point of order?
Yeah.
If the request was for a motion to reconsider, and I would, if we could have a vote on the motion to reconsider, I would defer to Mr. LaFata at that point, assuming the board is in favor of reconsideration tonight. So just from a procedural standpoint, I just ask for a vote on the motion to reconsider, and then I'll be quiet and let Mr. LaFata sort of make the presentation if the votes are there to reconsider.
You are correct. Just to verify, we're going to take a vote on the motion to reconsider. And then we're going to take another vote on moving forward with Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick. So at this point, we'll have one more shot at this when we actually bring it up. Any further discussion on the actual reconsideration? Motion by Trustee Joseph, support by Clerk Berry, to approve the request by the Supervisors Department to reconsider the vote to postpone item 7G from the November 6, 2017 Charter Township of Chesterfield regular board meeting to authorize Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick to prepare engineering plans, specifications, and necessary construction administrative services for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park project, MDNR number T16-0108. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Deming.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Akavetti.
Aye. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to approve the request from the Supervisor's Office to authorize Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick to prepare engineering plans, specifications, and necessary construction administrative services for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park project?
So moved, Mr.
Motion by Trustee Vosberg, support by Supervisor Akavetti. Discussion, Treasurer LaFata.
As I was saying earlier, Lyle sent some information that I pulled up in my email about 4 o'clock this afternoon. I passed a copy out to the board members. Lyle, if you'd like to come up, I'd like to give you a copy of, maybe you can answer some of these questions. But in the November 6 packet that Supervisor Akavetti put into the agenda item, there's a statement from, or there's a letter from Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick dated October 17th, 2017, that was in the November 6 packet. It says that we have estimated $15,550, and then below that, there's construction survey, construction administration, construction inspection, material testing. Well, if you total all that up, it's $56,450. Throw in the $450, that's $60,900. Now, if we go to the next document that Lyle sent me today, it's the estimate that I've never seen before, dated 12/15/16. And basically what it does is it's an estimate of all the work that the project needs to be done, all the physical work, and it totals to $359,000. That's the subtotal if you look at it. And if you look at, there's an asterisk, it says these engineering fees may not exceed 15% of the subtotal. Well, 15% of the subtotal is $53,850. So if you insert that in to where the $20,000 is, it means we're gonna project, we're gonna start the project out projecting a $30,000 overspend. So let's turn the page a couple more times, and there's the AEW contract from March 29, 2001. And if you go down to the highlighted area, it says payment for design of township projects. Project costs $300,000 to $700,000, which this project falls into because it's $359,000. It says the fee is 7.15%, which equates to $25,668.50. So what makes this real confusing is when this gets approved by the board, somebody's gonna get a bill from AEW, they're gonna tack the board minutes to it, and they're gonna bring it to my office and say, pay this invoice. And the justification isn't very well spread out the way we are right now. It looks like, even with, there's no contingencies or anything in here, like we're projecting that we're gonna overspend this project to start with. And like I said, I didn't get this information until I pulled your email down at 4 o'clock today. So I don't know if you can shed some light on it, but it's very confusing to me.
I can.
Mr. Nguyen.
Yes, good evening. Let's start with the front page where you our cover letter. And the $20,000 referenced in the original grant application, and we're showing $15,550 plus what was originally spent per survey. That's the $20,000 limit. The limit in the grant is for the design engineering only. After that, when you get to construction, those costs are picked up by the township. And that's where I suggested we only should work with the design costs right now. The grant does say a design engineer is responsible overall and must oversee the project, but there are components that I've referenced below those 4 items whether it be the survey, which I don't believe you could do that, but the contract administration, a lot of efforts, inspections can be done by staff here. And I would suggest that we proceed with design only, and once we have the design in place, we can have a further discussion on how much effort the staff could actually do in terms of inspections or field work. So that will change these numbers completely at the bottom. We only show them for budgetary purposes. We're not expecting to award that part at all right now. So when you go to the grant, it said $20,000 is referenced in the grant for engineering. That's design engineering only. So
Is that number and the 15,500 the same number? It's on this?
yeah, the 15,500 plus that 4,450, but it was already done for the survey work on the
Okay,
field, is the 20,000.
So that's the 20,000 in the estimate.
Correct, it is.
So what is, when you make the statement in the estimate saying not to exceed 15% of the subtotal, what is that number? Where does that come in?
That 15% number, that 50% reference is the actual grant application. This is a form right from the grant that you fill out, and it says it shall not exceed 15%. So the 20,000 falls well under that 15% limit, so it does not cause a problem with the state and the grant itself.
So this page from November 6th, the only number we have to worry about is the 15.5, and the rest of these numbers don't mean anything?
Well, they do mean something. It's costs you're going to incur, whether it be through a consultant such as ourselves or staff, doing some of the work itself. So I think it'd be more appropriate to define that better after the design is done. That way we can have a better idea what to divide up. So that's why I'm suggesting only go with the design component right now and so we can get all through the state at this time.
Any further follow-up questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Trustee Anderson.
Trustee Anderson.
Okay, Mr. Nguyen, what you're saying on this cover sheet, 71 of 81, construction survey, construction administration, construction inspections, et cetera, that is what your firm is telling the township should be prepared for the expenditures, not AEW generating these figures for AEW's firm.
We estimated these numbers as if we were going to do it all, just so you had a budgetary allotment. I fully anticipate that the two items in the middle, construction administration and construction inspections, a lot of that can be done by your own staff. There's going to be interviews needed with employees in the field because of the wage rate determinations. There's going to be certified payroll work, which can be done internally. There's a lot of documentation on that end that could be just done by staff, which would change these numbers at the end. So I think those are just future expenditures to be ready for.
So second part of my answer. So the second part would be if the township workforce expertise doesn't accomplish these figures, that probably fall to AEW to take care of that expenditure, correct? Or the work involved there?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Would it be correct to say then we're looking at an exposure for another $40,000 on top of the estimate that's for the construction work?
That is a potential, yes. We can't do material testing, so it has to be subcontracted to a testing company.
See, that's what I'm trying to say. It's very confusing. It's very difficult to track costs when the invoices are sent in because these are like moving numbers. They're not defined.
That's why I would suggest that be a secondary effort we go through the township board on. Let's get the design done first, then we can, before we do any of the construction effort, get that part authorized and fine-tuned.
If I may do a quick follow-up, and Lyle maybe expand on anything I'm saying or correct. The $15,500 is your estimate, and a pretty good estimate, of what it's going to take to get plans approved by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and specifications ready to submit bid documents to bid the project fully. Now that may mean
Including county road and soil erosion permits as well?
Yeah, and DEQ permits and Army Corps. So that process, because there's outside agencies involved, may take more or less work depending on how many reviews and whatnot. So that's the 15,550 is generally that piece, to get us to the point where we're approved with bid specifications and plans, approved by the state, ready for bid by consultants. So now moving down the list, the construction survey. So you will see that there was a survey done earlier in the year on the site, a topo and a site boundary survey. So that work, and correct me if I'm wrong, is necessary to design the project. You are determining the actual boundaries in a certain format required by the state, along with elevations of not only existing soil, trees, location of wetlands, location of any other structures or utilities that come through there.
Including floodplain.
That work is necessary to begin the design. Now, once the construction commences, now we move into the first section of this, which would be construction survey. Would it be safe to say there you are staking the water main, you're staking the sewer lead, you're staking where the limits of clearing are, where the rough grading limits are, and then coming back out again to stake where the road's going to end up going.
It is for all the improvements.
And where the structures are going and everything else. So that $5,600, although with all your experience, is a great estimate, but it could be less, and if things go very bad, it could be more. If you end up having to restake, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, depending on the situation.
Oftentimes when we get in a scenario where we have to restake, it's oftentimes a contractor-related issue, and we do have the ability to back charge some of the contractors for any efforts or extra work they've caused because of their methods, means and methods that have removed stakes.
So now that next item can be performed by any professional licensed surveyor in concert with the approved plans and all the data that was submitted.
Correct.
The next step down is construction administration of $10,700. Again, an estimate. Would that be the processing of pay requests, ensuring that the proper certificates for aggregate, for pipe, for asphalt, the wage interviews, and the overall project coordination would come into play. And again, a lot of that I think could be done in-house and will be done in-house. However, when you're dealing with a Michigan Department of Natural Resources grant, your prime professional does need to be involved every step of the way.
Required to oversee it, yes.
Anything I missed on the construction administration spot or portion of this?
I think you covered the basics, and there's going to be change conditions potentially. I mean, every big project has that potential, but that construction admin is that whole process of creating the documents, reviewing all the documents that come in, the payments, processing the payments, and making
the normal
recommendations.
dynamic of a site like this and the changes that will come through. So then it brings us down to construction inspection. Now that is something that is required again and very necessary for a municipality. Now we do perform our own inspections with Mr. Coddington and Mr. Johnson, and so some of that will be borne by our own forces.
You also have your building department that will be involved with the pavilions and foundations and footings that could easily be involved in that process as well.
And then the final one is the material testing piece. This is a lower lying area, and with a road, a new access road that's going to be put in. So if there is unstable soils, might have to go deeper. If there's a structure on this property that will need some testing to ensure that the building stays up. The concrete, the asphalt, the pipe, the material, there's some bit of testing that is going to be required there. How much that is, your best guess with your estimate is $5,000. Now that could be more, could be less. Is that a fair statement, I guess?
Oftentimes it depends on the qualifications of the contractor that is chosen and how expeditiously they move through a project. We have some limitations, being a grant-related project on choice of contractors, but we have to go through that process and work with the state on the actual final choice of the contractor after a public bidding process.
Trustee Joseph, I think I skipped over you.
That's okay, thank you. I appreciate the explanation. We had a very spirited discussion here that spilled over into post-meeting and then post-meeting, and I appreciate the time, Mr. Accavetti, that you took. We spent several hours going over this. I think I've talked to Mr. LaFata more this past 2 weeks than close family members, and the overriding objective here was, and I apologize for all of this landing on your lap, Mr. Wynn, because this has just been a long process, and so it kind of came to a head, and it was unfortunate. When we were able to sit down and calmly sort of parse out everything, what we realized is we have a very, very important project in our community, and there really is no doubt that AEW is equipped to handle the project, and I think everybody's confident in the skills and the professionalism. We had some internal issues with regard to how we purchase our vendor and how we go about that process, and it really became a bit of a proxy war, and it was unfortunate. When we sat back down and sort of looked at it, the request was to bring it back. I know that Mr. LaFata has done a lot of work here, and I appreciate the response that you've given to him and the board to try to help us, figure things out moving forward. Very happy to hear that the commitment and the vote tonight is really just to approve the design fees, and we anticipate being back first of the year at some point to look at what the next step is. But to be grant compliant, we need to get moving on this project. This vote tonight does that, and hopefully, and I appreciate your help in helping us to figure out our long-term, solution to this. We can get the Weber Paddle Park on course, get it ready to go. We have some other very pressing issues for the board, including our budget, our contracts, and we can tend to those things without delaying a very, very important project. So thanks for your patience. Thanks again for coming tonight and laying it all out. And I'm very satisfied with the work that you've done on this. And I think the $15,500 commitment puts us in a great place to see exactly what our expenses are going down the road. So thank you.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Trustee Domingue.
Lyle, just one question with material testing. Are we talking about like core samples boring down to see what we're going to hit farther down because it is such a low area and always floods?
No, this will actually be, the material testing is going to be during the construction efforts. That as we put the gravel down, we make sure it's compacted properly. The asphalt that goes down is compacted properly, it's the right material. Concrete has the right strength. So it's along those lines.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further comments from the board? Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So we have a motion on the floor now, and that's to approve AEW to be the contractor for this. We've talked about the $15,550 for the design fee. And then is it also to budget the rest, the other dollar amounts for that are listed here for the $56,000?
I do plan on amending my motion, which you'll have an opportunity to continue to support if you wish. I don't know if Trustee Anderson has spoke yet. I'm sorry, Treasurer.
Already spoke.
Oh, Treasurer LaFata.
I'm assuming that our, what we're looking at is only approving the $15,550 at this point.
Trustee Vosberg, it is actually your motion, so you will have to amend it, and I will decide if I want to continue support.
Okay. I thought, when I made the motion, I thought it was to include the entire amount, because that's just a budget amount. We're not approving who does it, anything like that. We're just approving that as a budgeted amount. And I think we're approving the $15,550 for AEW. Then we're also just being aware of we need to make a budget amendment or a budget set aside, whatever, depending on how much money we have already in our funds, for the expenses, and I think we need to do that. I want to see us doing that, setting that money aside and being, at least acknowledging that we will have those expenses.
Treasurer Lovato.
If we approve this and we approve the project estimate, this budget is going to start at about $40,000 over budget. It's going to be $40,000 over budget.
Trustee Vosberg, if you would be willing to...
I don't think that's the way to start a project.
Trustee Vosberg, if you would be willing to amend your motion, I'm confident that the board knows the potential construction administration costs in terms of staking, material testing, inspection, and general administration of a project such as this. And I'm comfortable just approving the 15.5 to prepare the plans and specifications as required by the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and coming back to this board at a future date to hammer out the rest of it. If you're comfortable with that,
I will do this. I want to get this passed, but I'm very annoyed that we can't move on and that I'll approve we'll just leave it at the $15,550, but we've got to get moving on, and I think the rest of this is ridiculous that it keeps dragging on like this. Thank you.
Mr. Supervisor, in spite of the ridiculousness, I think it's appropriate to understand what the project costs, because if I heard Mr. Wynn, we could be more. We don't know. The 15.5 on the plan gives us a pretty good understanding of what the project looks like. So in the interest of just getting it moving along and approving an arbitrary number before the 15.5 that we spend to tell us what that number more realistically looks like, I think is an inappropriate expenditure. Plus, we do have some purchasing policy work that needs to be done. And again, that's a secondary issue, which I am very encouraged about what that's going to look like. But I think the 15.5 is a very comfortable place because it sends a very committed message to the project, which we're all in favor of. What it costs, we'll get a better idea when the work, the 15.5 earmarked for the site plan work, we know what the project looks like at that point. So I do support fully the 15.5 expenditure to get that site plan, and that is moving forward. So thank you.
We have a revised motion to approve the request to authorize AEW to prepare the engineering plans and specifications for a cost of $15,550 for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park MDNR number T160187 or 0108 project. Is that a correct statement of your revised motion, Trustee Vosberg?
Yes.
Continued support, and we're going to have a bit of discussion on that. In order to move forward, I do think, I will open it up to the public here in 1 second, sir. In order to move forward, I think the most important thing is to get this project to the next step. There has been a lot of work previously done to get us to this point from forces and folks in Lansing, in the legislature. Our residents deserve this project, and this piece of it keeps the project moving forward. As for the details of the construction administration, we will have plenty of time to hammer out our purchasing policy, our consulting engineer relationship at a future date. But moving this project forward is first and foremost. I don't want to get into hard costs on hourly rate items that are out of our control at this point, and that's what this motion will do. Comes from the public. State your name and address. I know I think we have it on the file, probably, Mr. Katich.
I'll sign in. My name is Joe Katich, 32825 Sutton. This came up previous meeting, and I made a mention that basically you need a project manager. I was an engineer for 35 years. Before we got into any project, we had to basically detail what we wanted to do, and then we put together a project detail that described all of the funds, a line item for each fund. You had to estimate it, but in the end run, it had to come up to the, 265, I guess, in this project. And that way it locks you in. You don't go at it little by little. You're working your way down the road, and you're gonna get to a point where you spent half of your money, and you're nowhere near where the project is done. I suggest you sit down. Mr. Lafata's got a good background as to what it takes to put a project detail together. I'd ask you to help. AEW would probably help you, but to get together, approve the whole thing, approve the whole 65, line item by line item. That way you got it locked in. If you have trouble down the road, then you have a chance to come back and say, well, we blew it on this item, we need more money. But the way you're going at it, you're going to blow money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Keatich. Mr. Miller.
It works. Is Mr. Weber here? If he's not, you, the Township Board, tell him to take his money and go home. As a citizen of Joe Miller, Chesterfield Township, for 50 years, I've driven down that road where this thing is. Now, I saw some people who hold public office get on a boat and float around in that old scummy river down there, as if they were trying to get some type of publicity. Then I read in the paper where they went to Lansing and got some of the Michigan people's money, some type of a grant. Oh yeah, we can get our hands on the grant. Somebody did. So I don't know who Mr. and Mrs. Weber that wanted to do such a wonderful job over here in Chesterfield. Don't know nothing about them, but asked them to just take their money and go on home. I've driven down that street, and if you go over that bridge on that river, you're in a curve, and if you have an access in a curve on a hillside, trying to get in and out of a site to launch a boat, you're going to have somebody killed right there on that road. Now, I didn't spend 25 or 30 years of my life patrolling roads and streets and wearing a police badge not to know where safety hazards are. That place is a death trap waiting for somebody to go. So send that money back to Lansing, tell these Webers to take their money and give that thing to somebody else, and leave the place to the rabbits and the squirrels. And don't try to get reelected down there on that creek by sitting in a boat somewhere.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any further
I don't
public
know
comment?
how much money you anticipate to spend, but to me it looks like, well, we've got ourselves another little, let's do this, let's do that. And the last time I picked up a newspaper, I read where $300,000 was being taken to the bank and deposited by people in positions like some of you are in. And then turn around, boxes of money being taken to other company, to county business or county office buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, cancel the whole thing. Tell these engineers, forget it, you're not going to be paid a pile of money to help, and send the money on back up to Lansing and tell them to spend it wisely.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Rick Boylan. Very spirited discussion, I like that. But based on my background, I always start getting a little nervous when all of a sudden politicians want to move real fast. That's a scary thought sometimes, because a lot of things get left in the mud. There's obviously some dissension among the board of what the numbers are, what the facts are, what the figures are. But I've been able to figure out, not being on the inside like you all are, is about 25 grand was paid for the acceleration lane. That may or may not be a good one. About 28,000 has already been paid in engineering services, and if I understood Mr. LaFlata correctly tonight, most of that we can't use for anything moving forward. We have to start over, which I believe is why we're being driven now to want to bring AEW in and give them a contract to do what looks like the same work over, because looking at the graphs and the plots and the pictures you guys had in your packet from that meeting, a lot of the work has already been done. So I guess I'm a little confused of why we have to reinvent the wheel when it has already been started. Now, I did mention in the DNR contract or project procedures that any contract over $10,000 needed to be publicized and 3 bids. Well, 15.5 is over $10,000. So if I understood the way the DNR schedules their projects and uses their procedures, then we have to go out, advertise it, and get 3 competitive bids. But you seem pretty adamant about having your way tonight. If you so decide to do that, then I think you need to look real hard at how you word that contracting. We don't need contract administration if all they're going to do is give us some pictures and graphs and site plots. It needs to be very narrowly worded, and I think you should include the phrase "not to exceed 15.5," because what I read in the minutes was that was an estimate. Estimates have a tendency to grow. So I think you ought to wait until your December 4th meeting and talk among yourselves and get some more facts and data, because I'm seeing some disconnects here. I'm not sure it's a good idea to move forward right now. You got a couple weeks, you can wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyland. Any further comments from the public? Any follow-ups from the board? Trustee Joseph.
It's not, I'm not the only one to speak for the board, so any board member that wants to weigh in on this, but we had some very good feedback from some of our residents. I think the comments that Mr. Kadich made tonight and he made at the previous board meeting with regard to project management is not falling on deaf ears, including our engineering consultant, Mr. Wynn, who shared with me that there are some opportunities for project management, and in a perfect procedures, that's exactly what we will do, would have done in this case if it were available to us. So we're not there, and some of the ideas that we had when we discussed in the Water and Sewer Rate Advisory Committee with bringing in an in-house engineer to do exactly that, project management type things, may turn out to be a great idea. The difficulty that you run into, and I experience this more often than most, I think, I want what I want when I want what I want, and it doesn't work that way. And so in the spirit of compromise, you take a look at equally impassioned people with regard to what they would like to do, and you try to find the common ground. And in this case, what we found, and I don't know if he'll hear me until he goes home and hears it on his disc, but this is a very big project to our community. And Mr. and Mrs. Weber are phenomenal residents in our community, and they make a habit of giving away millions of dollars every year through the Wayne and Joanne Weber Foundation. And so to purchase the property and then basically give it to the township is the extent of their involvement now. They're not paying they've already paid. They've already donated. When you drive by and you see the jewel of the township over on Brandenburg and you see that splash park, that is the Weber Foundation money that went into that. And so they're an incredible asset. This grant is an incredible opportunity, and nobody needs to be pictured in a kayak for election purposes. And so I'm not sure where those comments were coming from, but they are what they are. In terms of moving quickly, one of the things that you look at in this particular project are timelines that are set by the state. And if the timelines are not met, then you miss a great opportunity, and in this case, it could be $250,000 or more. So the commitment to the funds that we've proposed tonight keep us on pace to be grant compliant, and they give us insight into the remaining bulk of the project, which are several $100,000. So it is money well spent. There were disagreements on that timeline. And for me, the reason that I made the motion to reconsider and asked to take a look at what we postponed until December was the potential for losing that project entirely. And in terms of good government, I don't think you want a board where 7 people come to the table and agree on everything and the meetings last 15 minutes. We get dirty up here, we roll up our sleeves, we go at it hard, and I'll talk about it in my public comments tonight, but sometimes it crosses over. It did 2 weeks ago. I was happy that within 24 hours there was apologies and discussions across the board, and we reconvene and take a look and caucus and try to find new solutions, because at the end of the day, this is a very, very important project. The Webbers are very important people, and a lot's gone into this, and at 15.5, we keep the project moving forward, and we develop long-term solutions. So it's a very enthusiastic support of this motion tonight.
Thank you, Trustee Joseph. A couple real quick comments to some of the public comments. There's a number of reasons why a heavy civil construction job goes bad. These are road projects, sewer projects, water projects. But one should never be because of the owner. And as a municipality, you have an owner. Any one of these projects have three major components: an owner, a consulting engineer acting on behalf of the owner, and contractor or contractors. And there's a lot of variables in these projects, a lot of unknowns, and when one of these projects goes bad, it should never ever be because of the actions of an owner. Two of the comments from Mr. Kadich and Mr. Boyland, we're going to be discussing that whole process, not everything that you both described. What our relationship looks like with an engineer for heavy civil construction projects. The dynamics of that, of what these projects bring. The schedule and the layout and what costs what and the schedule of values, just come on into my office and see me. I have a very good grasp on heavy civil construction projects, and I'd love to lay that out with you at any time. We have a motion by Trustee Vosberg, support by Supervisor Accavetti, to approve the revised motion, which is to approve the request to authorize AEW to prepare the engineering plans and specifications for the completion of the Weber Paddle Park project, MDNR number T160108, for $15,500. Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Accavetti.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Clerk Berry. Aye.
Motion passes. 7H, set a public hearing for December 11th, 2017 at 7 p.m. to hear comments on the proposed 2018 township budget.
Motion to approve motion to set a public hearing for December 11th, 2017 to hear comments on the proposed 2018 township budget.
Motion by Clerk Berry.
Support.
Support by Trustee Joseph. Discussion? Clerk Berry, please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Accavetti.
Aye. Item 8 is the addendum, and there are no addendum. So item number 9, public comment. If you wish to address the board, please state your name, and you have a 5-minute time limit.
We don't have a sign-in sheet. Do you have the sign-in sheets anywhere for to be signed? Or can we do it later? I missed the last meeting, so I might have missed something about all this here boating up and down this creek. But that is an unsafe curve going over that bridge and turning left. And I can't wait and live long enough to see that. But I will remember the people sitting in the boats trying to get money out of Lansing and then spend Mr. and Mrs. Weber, whoever they might be, on a creek bank that should be left alone. And I've got one more thing I want to say to that chief of police. Thank you again. And I hope that he's got a person in that chief of fire department, pardon me. I do hope he's got someone there that's worthy of being the chief. And I hope that you people will not go outside of our community and drag some fireman out of somewhere and bring him down here and make him a chief. I believe we've probably got some fire people here that's worthy of being the chief and replacing him. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any further public comment?
Evening. Gordon Tazinski, Chesterfield Township Firefighters Union President. I just want to get up here and congratulate our chief on his retirement. I also want to thank him for everything he's done for this department, and not even just for this department, but he's done for the fire service. You know, he's taught a lot of us through this county, through the state. He's affected a lot of us, and I myself have learned a lot from him, Chief. So I appreciate everything you've done. You took over our department when it was a little rough. We had some rough patches when it came to layoffs and budgetary stuff, but you're able to help. You turned it around and you got us to where we are today, and I appreciate that, and I thank you for it. So it's a pleasure working with you, and it's been more of an honor to know you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jazinski. Any further public comment? Let's bring it up to the board. Trustee Demink.
I'd like to congratulate Amanda on her Parks and Rec as the new director. I look forward to working with you as a liaison. I've been around the township a long time, and you're going to do a great job, and I'm really looking forward to you. You may have my number. If you ever need anything, just give me a call. Doug, it's been a pleasure again. I wish you the best. Enjoy the good life. Thank you for all the information you provided, like I stated earlier. And, wish you the best. I'd like to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving, all the residents of the township. Drive safe, especially on Black Friday when everybody's out there shopping. And to all my 6 other board members, I wish you a happy Thanksgiving and enjoy the start of the holiday season. That's all for me. Thank you.
Trustee Vosberg.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I too want to congratulate Chief Charbonneau on his retirement. Thank you for your many years of service for the greater good of our entire region. And also to Amanda Willard, looking forward to working with you with Parks and Rec. This board has served for about 1 year, I think, 1 year and a couple days. And it's been quite the experience. Done a lot of, made a lot of decisions, some changes, just about all of them for the good. And I just wanted to express a little bit my frustration tonight with this project. This project was started, was in the works way before I became a member of this board. And I am frustrated that it's just taken so long to get to the stage that it is. So I would, and so while sometimes someone mentioned making decisions too fast, I'm thinking it went way too slow, but we're where we're at and we're going to move forward with it. Thank you also to, excuse me, all of our employees, and wishing all of them happy Thanksgiving, and to the board and to our public. Thank you.
Trustee Anderson.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Willard, congratulations. I know the last couple times at we had the baseball event there, the softball during the summer, you were actually doing a yeoman's job getting that together anyhow. So at least you're getting the position that you deserve. Chief Charbonneau, congratulations. Thank you for your time to our community. And I hope you'll be available to help us move forward with this transition with our public safety. Weber Paddle Park. Tonight we approved $15,550 to basically look at what the motion had, design estimates, things of that nature. I know that July 31st, 2019, the project has to be completed. That's a year and a half or so from now. So there is some urgency there. But at the same time, I believe that we're dealing with the public's money. And we're as diligent dealing with the public's money as we are with our own finances. I would just hope we keep that logic at the forefront moving forward with it, not just a bankrupt or burn up additional money on it, which is truly should be a very good project for our community and I guess surrounding communities that want to utilize it. And with that, I'll wish all my cohorts and all those out there have a good Thanksgiving and appreciate your families and be safe. Thank you.
Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Acrobetti. Echoing some of the comments from fellow board members. Congratulations to both Amanda Willard. That was a very commendable presentation that you gave to the board. We do have faith in you. You've been at every single event, special event, from Easter eggs to opening day, and always smiling and always a very positive person. So I know that you'll do well in your new position, and congratulations. Chief Charbonneau, thanks for the time that you gave to me as we were trying to work out really this public safety concept. I appreciate the faith that you had in me, and I appreciated the comments that you made regarding giving somebody your word. There was a handshake, and words, promises, and I'll stay true to those. And I appreciate your support in helping to make that a smooth transition, and the support that you showed to our new public safety director. It's been more than lunch for 14 years. There was a mentor relationship, and then a friendship, and then actually a subordinate relationship, and you were very gentlemanly throughout it all. And so I hope that you are available in a consulting capacity as we move forward, because there's some things that I think you are uniquely positioned in to help us, and your commitment to the township is most appreciated and respected. You heard from your men tonight, and I think Gordon represents your entire department. So outstanding career, and I'm glad that I had the opportunity to know you as a board member and as our chief. So thank you. The issue involving the paddle park and the discussion that we had 2 weeks ago and today, the concept of urgency, and I usually don't see Trustee Vosberg get fired up like that. So I know that this is a big deal to her as it is to us. The ideas and the discussions that we've had are all part of a broken system. So Trustee Vosberg started her comments out about the changes that we've had in the course of the year, and one of the concepts and one of the things that we've been talking about for years is our engineering and how we handle big projects. And so the unfortunateness of it all is that the Weber Paddle Park sort of came at the point of the proverbial straw. So you have Mr. LaFata, brilliant guy, policies, procedures, project guy, systems guy, saying, look, we have a policy in place. And so what you saw unfold were a lot of secondary arguments and secondary debates that had more to do with systems and a policy and procedure moving forward. And so it encumbered this project, and it shouldn't. So I think we made the right decision tonight. And again, there are a lot of things that go on with relationships, individual relationships, that require one another to have discussions that can only be had if there's mutual respect. And I think we have that on this board, and I'm confident that in the upcoming several months and next year and for the balance of our term, you'll see policies and procedures in place that elevate our community. And they must be in place if we're going to attract the type of development that is being talked about in our community. And I wanted to end my comments tonight in sharing briefly the decision that was made to reach out, and I spoke to several members of the board as it relates to these IKEA signs that everyone's been talking about. And so, like everybody else, I read in the paper, in Cranes, and in the Free Press, and in the Macomb Daily, and I made some calls to those individuals that I knew to be close to conversations, if there were or are any, and indicated to them that I would like to do what we did for the Cabela's project. Well, some of us did for the Cabela's project, and 3 years ago, when the then supervisor was quoted in the paper as calling it a pipe dream, there were others of us who got behind the project and supported the project and went out and did everything we could to try to make that happen. I firmly believe that we're in the exact same position with the IKEA development, and so it was a no-brainer for me to ask permission from those close enough to simply say a endeavor like you saw with the when Amazon announced their scouting locations for their HQ2, you saw hundreds of major cities put together promotional videos simply saying we would love to have Amazon in our city. And on a much smaller scale, the purchase of 5 IKEA signs that say Chesterfield Township welcomes IKEA, and then placing them strategically around the township created a buzz that was heard by those close to the discussions. And I know that it fostered a tone of welcome and love and optimism and real hope that we could bring an anchor store to that Cabela's site and make Chesterfield a destination township. It would be an incredible get for our community, and one that I know in a very strange way is linked to how we handle projects like the Weber Paddle Park. Systems is what it is. It's about systems and putting in place the right policies and procedures that foster the development that we need to move our township forward. So I appreciate the time that we took. Government offices were closed with Veterans Day, and I spent the day with a couple of veterans, and we put together some signs, and then we went out and put them up, and everywhere we went in the community to put them up, we would have people that would stop us and honk and say, "Great, we hope it's coming, when's it coming?" And it was just an incredible day, and the feedback from those close to the discussions were very much appreciative. The Facebook post was shared over 1,300 times, estimates of 500,000 views, and the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. So I think it was a successful message sent, and I'm proud to have worked with Treasurer LaFata and Trustee Anderson, giving up your time and the day to spend welcoming a potential business to our community. So with that, I would just like to say happy Thanksgiving, and to my wife, who is, well, sadly, it's her birthday today, and I offered to take her out to a very nice place and see a township meeting in action, and she did decline, but I do want to say that I appreciate the sacrifice that goes in to being my wife, for sure. So happy birthday, Chris, and happy Thanksgiving to you all.
Treasurer LaFata.
I'd like to congratulate Amanda Willard in her promotion. I'd like to thank Chief Charbonneau for his years of service to the township. I'd like to thank the residents that support our board meetings, and wish them and everybody a happy Thanksgiving. As far as the Weber Paddle Park, I personally think starting a project out that's $40,000 in the hole, not counting contingencies, is a poor start. Based on what Mr. Cadis says, a program management process that identifies key elements like the project scope, the project plan, project timelines with milestones, major milestone reviews, change control, so that if there's a change, we understand what the change is and what the financial and timing impact is. Risk management, what type of a risk are we looking at? Is it a timing risk? Is it a financial risk? It has a lot to bring to the table. It doesn't end when the project's over. What are my annual administration costs? What are my maintenance procedures? What's it going to cost me in utilities, insurance? What's going to cost for upkeep? It's never ending. The project should be run with an open issues tracking list that's reviewed with the township board, could be done at the engineering meetings. There's a lot of good to be done with a program or project process put in place. It doesn't put the township at risk. It tracks it financially, and it understands any changes. And what it does is it minimizes risk, because you try and identify them up front, and you put things in place to avoid them or mitigate them or transfer them to somebody else. Thank you.
Clerk Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. These are pretty tough acts to follow here tonight, but I'm going to give it a shot. Chief Charbonneau, Amanda, I can say without question that, and this is not disparaging on anyone else, but you've always been two of my favorites. From the time I got here, you have both been nothing but kind, considerate, helpful, cooperative with me. And I want to personally thank you for that, because there was a time when maybe not so much. And in other cases. But both of you have always been phenomenal to work with for me, and I want to thank you for that. They often say that leaders can be measured by the extent of the loyalty and support that they receive from those who they lead. And I know that the folks who have been fortunate enough to work with you through the years, you have always spoken very highly of you and have had nothing but great things to say and have always been loyal, and you've always had their full support, and I think that speaks volumes. So I hope I did that justice, but knowing both of you, I don't think I quite did, but I sure did try, so I want you to know that. Please enjoy your retirement and enjoy the beginning of your new career here, Amanda. So one at the beginning, one at the end, but both tremendous leaders. Also, wanted to just make comment about a lot of the deliberations that you've seen, certainly over the last couple of board meetings here on the board, I think is a great testament to the amount of thought and the amount of consideration that's going into getting these projects done right. I think everyone is anxious. I think we all have a tremendous bucket list here that we'd love to, things we'd love to get accomplished. Fortunately, here on the board, we have a tremendous number of subject matter experts, which you don't see in other governing boards, and we are able to tap into those talents that we have here, and also with our staff of our department heads as well. And I think we are doing a lot of due diligence to make sure that not only when these projects come in that they're well thought out, that they're well done, that we do these things right. And I think it's very encouraging for me to see, and to the extent to which I can participate in that myself, I would love to be able to do that. The IT project is one that is very important to me, and I hope to be able to add some value to that discussion when that occurs. And I'm very excited to see the Weber Paddle Park moving forward also. You will notice, if you look on our agendas online, you will see that the format has changed a little bit. A lot of great things. If you haven't seen them already, I encourage you to take a look at those. Each individual item now, you can simply click on that item if there is a backup you'd like to see, and it'll pull up just for that item. There's no scrolling through pages anymore. You can certainly do that if you'd like to, but you can now look at very specific items in a matter of seconds. It's really a tremendous tool, and we are going to be launching even more improvements to that particular module, as well as others, such as video streaming. We're moving that way, Mr. Kadich, I promise you. I can't promise when we're going to get there, but I can promise you we're moving in the right direction. And that's really an overall theme that I just like to leave everyone with, of what I'm so thankful for. With Thanksgiving coming up this Thursday, I'm so very thankful to be here. Today is our 1 year. We've been in office 1 year today, this board, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm grateful for that, and I'm so thankful for those who I serve with, and to be privileged for those whom I serve. Thank you.
Thank you to the board, first and foremost, for your reconsideration of the Weber Paddle Park to allow it to move forward. Trustee Vosberg, I do understand your frustration. However, I am very comfortable moving forward in this manner, and the reason is as follows. This project, although extremely important to our community from a leisure services standpoint, from a perception standpoint, going to be an amazing asset to us moving forward, is a rather small and simple heavy civil infrastructure project on the grand scope of several hundred miles of aging water main, sanitary sewer, along with the infrastructure issues that our community has. So we have got to get this right. The perception, without getting into this debate, because we're gonna have a lot of discussion about this. The perception that there's lack of processes and controls and schedule project management to deal with whether it be changes or any heavy civil infrastructure project, in my opinion, is just that, a perception. There's a reason why these relationships and these projects, all you gotta do is look at the Michigan Department of Transportation. We're gonna shut down 696 for the entire part of next summer. I'd argue that is going to be a pretty efficient operation. Same process. The mechanisms are in place for a small, medium, big, or large sewer, water, road, or heavy civil infrastructure projects. They're the same mechanisms. Starts with an owner, someone paying the bills, in this instance the taxpayer, a consultant engineer who represents the owner, and that partnership is one of vital importance, and a contractor. The mechanism is set up with unit prices, with detailed schedules, with all the systems in place to deal with differing site conditions, to deal with changing schedules and all the things that are out of a municipality's or an owner's control when they build these processes. I look forward to changing our internal processes, and if there's something we can change on a global scale as an idea, any ideas and thoughts for that perception to for people to become more comfortable with it. Maybe it's better communication, maybe it's education on these projects, maybe it's time on the job, maybe it's experiencing what happens when a job goes bad, and the issues that come up every single day when you're dealing with underground and conditions that you can't see. The process accounts for all those things. And the reason why I'm happy, and I'm more than willing on this parcel to continue this discussion, there are gonna be major infrastructure projects that this township will need sometime in the future. Hundreds of miles of sewer, a lot of it's very deep, a lot of it's very old, under roads, under bridges, structures that are failing, water main that it doesn't have capacity. And these projects, you're not gonna be talking about these amount of dollar signs. They are gonna be much bigger, and for a project to go bad, the owner can never be the reason, ever. There's enough uncertainties out there. And if we don't get this internally sorted out correctly, and I hope that we, as a team, come out with that right solution, I think we're in very big peril moving forward with these necessary infrastructure projects. So thank you first and foremost for that. Have a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Our next board meeting will be on December 4th at 7 p.m. In the meantime, 1 week from tonight, we'll be having a special work group budget board meeting 1 week from tonight. Item number 11 is a closed session. 11A, discussion regarding strategy and the negotiation of collective bargaining agreements pursuant to Section 8C of the Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to make a motion to enter closed session.
Motion by Clerk Berry. Support. Support by Trustee Anderson. Please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Vosper. Aye. Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Akivetti.
Aye. We're in closed session at 8:43 p.m. Do I have a motion to re-enter open session?
Motion to re-enter open session.
Support.
Motion by Clerk Berry, support by Trustee Demink to re-enter open session at 9 o'clock. Please call the roll.
Clerk Berry, aye. Trustee Demink.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Treasurer LaFata.
Aye.
Supervisor Akivetti.
Aye. We are back in open session at 9 o'clock. Item number 12 is adjournment. Motion to adjourn at 9:01 p.m. by Supervisor Akivetti, support by Trustee Joseph. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We are adjourned.